Hi guys, welcome back for episode number 59 of the weekly playback. Thank you so much for all of your feedback in the last video in which I asked whether I should stick with my cell phone to record videos or with the webcam, which is what I shot the last video with, as well as my top 10 of 2022. And it seems the consensus is that I should stick with my cell phone for now because the webcam was grainy and apparently made me look blue and the sound quality was not good. So good to know, so I'll stick with my phone for now and try to do what I can to improve the quality of my videos. I know I should add those fluffy things around the room to help, eliminate some of the echo. So I'll look into getting those things, whatever they're called. And maybe someday I'll be able to record with my Canon camera, which I have. I feel like that requires a bit more technical, or is it technological? I don't know. Know-how that I do not have right now, but eventually maybe I'll get around to doing that as well. But anyway, thank you for the feedback. So for now, I will stick with my cell phone. So anyway, super excited to talk about the games this week because Scholars of the South Tigris is on the list and I absolutely loved it. So let's just get into the games that I played in this past week. So Scholars of the South Tigris. So let me just pull up the information for you guys. I believe it is launching on Kickstarter in March, I believe early March. So Scholars of the South Tigris is a 2023 game for 1 to 4 players, designed by S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips, and the art is done by the Micho, and it is published by Garphill Games. Now this is a bag building, dice worker placement game with some, of course, area majority going on, and there's a rondel in it, and of course hand management. So let me just show you guys some of the components. Now I'm not going to show you the big board here because it is too big for me to hold up, so I'm just going to throw up pictures and show you the relevant areas of the board as I talk about them. But let me just show you a player board. So this is what a player board looks like. And you're going to be placing your action cards in these empty slots, and I will, get into more detail as the video progresses. There is a solo board. I have not played the game solo, so, but this is a solo board, and there's a back side to it as well. I'm not sure how that works. The board is gigantic, so again, not going to show you, but I will throw up pictures, and I've posted photos of my play on BGG for anyone who is curious. So Scholars of the South Tigris is a bag building game. So of course you have the different bags of the different player colors, which again, I absolutely love the player colors. Here are all the dice in the game. So not all of them, actually, there's some more. So the white are neutral, of course, and then you have your primary colors. So you have a lot of primary colors, red, blue and yellow, and then you have your secondary colors, and you have only 5 of each of those: orange, green, and purple. Secondary dice are really hard to come by in this game. You have workers, again, in the primary colors and neutral, so white, blue, red, and yellow. And then the different player pieces. So you have like these different kinds of like flag markers, which will keep track of your research track. You have there's like round markers, which will be going around the rondel, and then you have your influence tokens, which you'll be placing on cards as well in the domes of the minarets, I guess. I don't know if they're meant to be minarets in this game, but whatever they are, the domes of the guild, of the various guilds. It's called the Hall of Wisdom, I believe. So in this game, you are each going to have your own deck of cards, your own deck of action cards. So let me just show you an example. So here we have the purple cards. I'll use the purple ones. So each player is going to have their own deck of cards, and at the beginning of the game, you start out the game with a certain number of dice in your bag, a certain number of white dice, and then 1 color die, and you are going to roll those dice, and then on your turn, this is similar to Wayfarers, in which the game just goes on and on. You just take a turn or you rest. So on your turn, you're going to do one of the actions, or you're going to rest as your action, and then you just go around and around and around doing that until the game until the game end is triggered, and then you each get, the other player, you take as many turns so that everyone has an equal number of turns, I believe, and then the game ends. And I'll talk about the game end triggers and everything. So the different action cards you start the game with are these, and as you can see, there are spots for you to place dice on them. So again, you're going to be rolling your dice before your new round begins, and your new round is not necessarily going to correspond with someone else's round, because again, it depends on when you decide to rest. So the various action cards will allow you to do different things, and then of course, depending on how you place them onto your own board, you may end up with different resting abilities than the one shown, because you might cover a spot. In the beginning of the game, you're probably not going to want to do that, because the blue bar indicates your resting abilities. So in the beginning of the game, you're probably not going to want to cover up one of the other resting abilities. You'll probably use one of these empty slots. And in the last slot, there is actually going to be a card that you are given in the beginning of the game. So you are randomly given one of these cards in the beginning of the game, and on that card there is going to be a worker, 2 workers, and then a colored die. So a secondary colored die, which again are harder to come by. So in order for you to get these workers and the die, you need to perform the action that is shown. So in this case, you would need to use this translator. In this case, you would need to I think this is a translator work from this guild, or you would need to be on level 3 of this green track in the research area. And then when you take those workers and dice, you're able to use them, and then it becomes an action card that you can use, a more powerful action card, because it already has 1 die on it with a high value, which is pretty nice. So that starts out in this slot of your board. And then once you've removed it, then you have a new resting ability to use over there, which is a pretty good one. This part of the board, you will have a player aid. So at the beginning of the game, everyone will place an influence on one of the starting translators. So at the bottom of the board, there's going to be starting translators, and you are going to place an influence token on one of them, and I'll explain why you do that. And then you are going to take the resource card that is below it, gather all the resources from it, and it'll tell you how many dice you need in your bag and which colors. And you then flip, after getting all the resources from it, you flip it over and you place it on this section of the board, and it becomes your player aid for the game. And it also gives you a resting ability. And that resting ability is to activate the astronomy track. So yeah. So anyway, so the green hand indicates like an activate symbol. I don't remember what the exact term is, but so anyway, so in this game, you are trying to translate different works into Arabic. So there are different languages in this game, like Sanskrit, Persian, Chinese, Syriac, and you are trying to translate works into Arabic to get the most points. So at the top of the board, you are going to see a bunch of different translator cards. They are going to be in their own groups. So like all of these will be together in a pile in a draw deck. And then you will have, this woman, and then you will have this guy. So again, there's different kinds of translators. Like there's this Chinese guy, there's this Indian woman who does Sanskrit, there's this guy. So, different translators that you'll have different piles of. So on your turn, let me just explain how the translators work. So if you decide the different actions available, I guess I'll just go over the different actions. So let me just pull out the rule book because it'll be easier for me to see. So on your turn, you may want to do one of the following actions. So you can travel. So traveling is going around the rondel, and when you go around the rondel, that allows you, if you land on a black spot, to place a scholarly work into the Hall of Wisdom that can then later be translated, because you need to pull works from the Hall of Wisdom in order to translate them. When you place a work into the Hall of Wisdom, you will get some kind of a bonus as indicated on the board. The higher up in the Hall of Wisdom it is, the more of a bonus, reward you'll receive for placing a card into the Hall of Wisdom. So you need to go around the rondel in order to place cards there. And so different areas of the board require you to either have a certain number of pips, or they require you to have certain colored dice. So I will get into that and how that works in a minute. So the other action you can take is to research. In the middle part of the board, you see these different research tracks for the different areas of research. So you have like math, astronomy, philosophy, so the different areas, physics. So I don't remember exactly what all of the subjects are, but you get the idea. So you're going up on the different tech track in order to hopefully score some end game points, as well as get, those bonuses that you can get when you're able to activate them during resting. So during your resting ability, you are going to, I believe, what's the word called? Harvest. That's the word. You harvest your research tracks. So that's when the green hand symbol is there, and you will get, the highest space that your marker has reached on that research track. There's some solid spaces, and then there's some not so solid spaces. So the solid spaces are the things that you will get when you rest. The not solid spaces are what you will get as you're immediately advancing on them. So those are like a one-time thing. So that's the research track that you want to get up on. Translators. So you want to use the recruit ability to either employ translators into the bottom of the board. So when you employ a translator, you actually flip the translator card over. So like the translator card, you will see them on the board with this side face up, but when you employ them, you turn them over. So first, you turn them over, and then you place an influence token on it. And then that can be used by anyone. So translators can be used by anyone until they retire. How a translator retires is on the board, you will see different gold nuggets on top of each translator spot in the bottom. And those gold nuggets indicate how many gold nuggets need to be placed on a translator before they retire, because every time you use a translator, you place a gold nugget on it in order to use him or her. And if there's someone else's influence token on that translator, meaning they're the ones who employed that translator, then you also have to pay that person a coin. But of course, if it's your own, you don't pay yourself a coin. And then once the translator retires, it's great because the person who owns that translator gets to then place that translator under their board. So then the next time you take that action, you have more available actions to you underneath that slot. So if you placed a card here, you would then not only get to take this action, but you would get this as well. So you want your translators to be used, obviously, not just to get coins, but so that you can place them underneath your board and get more actions, more powerful actions. And of course, they're worth victory points at the end of the game. So that is one of the other actions. What else? Let's see. So translating. So let's talk about actually translating. So when you translate, you will be paying gold again to the translators. And so you are trying to get from a certain language to Arabic. So a scholarly work may indicate a certain language on it, will indicate rather a certain language on it. Like, so for example, this one has Greek on it. So you need to get from Greek to Arabic to translate this. So you'll see on your player aid that there is like a hierarchy, or not a hierarchy, but like a train. I don't know what it's called. The way in which languages can be translated from one to the other. I don't know what word I'm looking for. So to get from Greek, you might want to go from Greek to Persian to Arabic, or Greek to Syriac to Arabic. So there are special rules about translating. Like, for example, you can't have the same language twice. There's like a special rule about that. I don't remember exactly what it says, but you have to, so for example, players can forge a line of translation by any sequence they wish. The only guiding rule is that they cannot use the same language twice during a translation action. So for example, you cannot go Greek, Sanskrit, Greek, Syriac to Arabic. You cannot use the same language twice. So different translators, are able to translate different languages. So for example, like Syriac, Arabic, Chinese, Sanskrit, Greek. So all the different translators that will come out have different languages, and you are going to be trying to use them accordingly to translate your works into Arabic. Once you translate a work into Arabic, you place the card above your player board, and that will either give you some kind of an immediate action, like this one, for example, because you see the lightning bolt symbol, or it will give you an end of game scoring ability. So like this one says if you are up here on the research, if you have this many influence in the orange guild at the end of the game, you'll get this many points. If you have this many influence in the orange guild at the end of the game, you'll get that many points. So yeah, and also it does give you an immediate ability to place an influence in that guild. So yeah, so these are just really great. Oh, and at the bottom, of course, there is this ability as well. So yeah, so these, works, you obviously want to translate them. And of course, they're also worth points at the end of the game. So those will go above your board, and everyone starts the game with one work translated that is above their board. So yeah. Let's see, I talked about this. So let's talk about end game triggers. So within the works, okay, so when you are putting a scholarly work into the Hall of Knowledge, or Hall of Wisdom rather, you have a draw deck of the scholarly works. And so when you move one, when you're taking the action and put it into the Hall of Wisdom, a new card will be flipped over and then placed into the empty spot. However, within the deck, at the beginning of the game, you are preparing that deck in such a way that a Caliph card will come up. There are 4 Caliph cards in the game. These are Caliph cards. So when a Caliph card comes up, you are going to place the Caliph card at the top of the board, there on the right-hand side at the top of the board above the guilds. You will see 4 slots there, and that will then trigger a Caliph event. So, and then you will see who has the most influence in the first guild. You start from the left and go to the right, and then whoever has the most influence will take one of their influence tokens and place it on one of these spots, which will then give them an immediate bonus. So the top one is always going to be 3 points. The second one is always going to be 1 point plus a die, and some of them will give you a secondary colored die, which is a great way to get those secondary dice because otherwise they're pretty hard to get. And then the last one will allow you to immediately retire a translator or get a gold nugget. And again, on the board, you will see some other Caliph events that could be triggered, like underneath the spot. And of course, you will do those as well. I won't go into detail about those. So yeah, so the game ends once all 4 Caliph cards have been revealed and resolved, and then you do the appropriate number of turns after that, and then the game ends, and then you go to scoring. So yeah, it is a really fantastic game. Of course, it is a bag building game, so there are ways for you to eliminate the white dice from your game. I did not talk about one of the most important aspects of this game, which is the workers and how the workers are used. So I think I should talk about that. So the dice in this game, the primary colored dice are the ones that are easier to get in this game. You want these secondary dice because certain actions on the board, you need to have the appropriate die color, or you need to have the appropriate number of pips. And in some instances, I think for like the research hall, you need both. You need both the appropriate number of pips and color, if I remember correctly. So how do you get the secondary colors when you have these color dice? That is where workers come into play. So workers are really easy to come by in this game. Well, not super easy, but easier. And in order to make those secondary colors that you want, you are going to place these workers above the dice. So let's suppose you needed a purple die, but you don't have a purple die. So what do? So you can either, if you happen to have a blue and a red die, that will make purple. So you could place both of these onto a card, which then gives you purple. Or you could, in this instance, if you have 2 white dice on your board, you could place a blue worker on top of one and a purple or red worker on top of the other. And that will then give you purple. So then you will be able to take a purple action because you have blue and red making purple, which is pretty cool. So, and this, you can also increase your pips by adding the same colored worker on top of a die in order to increase your pip value, which is really cool. Yeah, so like for example, if you needed to make green, you would have blue and yellow on your card, which makes green. So that is pretty cool. So workers come into play because they allow you to alter the color of your dice. So, there's quite a bit going on in this game. Like, it's definitely more heavy than Wayfarers because you're keeping in mind the different workers you have. You're keeping in mind like what kind of colored dice you have in your bag, what you might be able to draw, which colored workers you might want in order to make the colors that you need. You're trying to keep track of which translators are out there and which works you're trying to translate. You know, you're also keeping track of your starting, translation card at the top and the abilities on there. You're keeping track of which die you have on your own board that you will try to retrieve once you've done that action, because you know that will help you out. So there's like just a lot going on in this game that you're trying to keep track of. But it's really good. So let me just talk about the rest action. So once you take a rest action, you get all the stuff on the blue part that has been played on your board or that is already there. So like, you know, but you don't have to do it if it requires you to pay a resource. You don't have to do it. I mean, you don't have to do any of them if you, I guess, if you don't want to. So you get the rewards, you know, you harvest your research tracks if you have an ability, rest ability that allows you to do that. Like for example, this one allows you to harvest the philosophy track. Again, that green hand symbol with one of the research track icons means harvest. So you get that reward. Then you take your dice and you put them back in your bag. But first you take out any dice that, you know, you are allowed to roll first, and then you place your dice back into your bag. And then you take your workers and the workers go back to the pool. You do not get to keep the workers. But again, workers are easier to come by. Like I never had a shortage of workers in this game. That was not a problem for me. The problem was getting those secondary colored dice. But since those are harder to get, the workers really helped out with me being able to, you know, mix the colors I needed. Really good game. So it's more complex than Wayfarers in the way that you really need to be very strategic about which languages are needing to be translated in the Hall of Wisdom, but also being mindful that another player might get to those first, which translators you yourself want to put out and employ, because you want other people to use your translators, and if they don't use them, they're not going to retire and you're not going to get extra actions below your board. So, you know, there's a lot to be mindful of, and I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was a really fantastic game, and I think I prefer it to Wayfarers. Again, different mechanics in both, but I liked how much more difficult it was, I feel like, to really achieve your goals in this game. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's such a great game. I'm just super impressed. Like, you know, when I play like a Shem Phillips, S.J. McDonald game, I'm like, how did they come up with this? It's just so freaking good. It's just really, really good. Yeah. So, oh, sorry, I kept on calling them scholarly works. They're called scroll cards. Obviously, that makes more sense. Scroll cards. Yeah, and I did not mention, but on the rondel, there are white spots as well, which will just give you some basic actions. They aren't that, you know, great. You definitely want to land on the black spots when you're going around the rondel. So how does it compare to Wayfarers? Again, I did say it's more complex. Yes. Oh, sorry, let's talk about scoring first. I totally need to talk about scoring. Sorry, I know I'm a bit scattered here. I swear my 1 to 2 minute video will be better. Okay, so you want to get more colored dice than white dice, because at the end of the game, you are going to subtract the sum, not the pips, but like how many total you have, white dice from your colored dice. And then you have this one like kind of like track on the board, and then you place a token there to indicate where you landed in terms of, you know, who had the most colored dice, and that will give you a certain number of points. I feel like in a 2-player game, doesn't make a huge difference. You know, the person with the better score in that part will get 2 points, and then the other person will get 0 points. Like, okay, a 2-point difference, not terrible. But in a 4-player game, the top person will get 6 points and the bottom person will get 0 points. So there it might make a difference. So again, you deduct your total white dice from your colored dice. So you definitely want more colored dice than white dice, because otherwise you could end up with a negative there. And again, you'll end up with 0 points if you're the lowest person there. Then you are going to get your victory points from your translators that are retired. So at the bottom of your player board, which, you know, if they retired, they gave you extra action abilities, which was great. You will get victory points from any guilds you control. So you, again, want the most influence in certain guilds. You will get victory points from any influence you have on the top and middle spaces of Caliph cards. So again, when you were able to move your influence when a Caliph card was revealed, if you put it on the second or first spot, you will get victory points there. And then finally, you will get sorry, not finally, you will also get victory points from your final positions of your research markers on each of the 6 research tracks. So the higher up you are on research tracks, the more points you will get. And then finally, you will get victory points from the scroll cards that you translated above your player board. And then whoever has the most points will win. Really, really great game. Absolutely love it. Highly recommend it. If you really enjoy Sean Phillip games, then definitely recommend this. You know, his trilogies are amazing. Yes, so I actually just recently played Raiders of the North Sea. So I actually played it yesterday. I actually shot this video yesterday and then I realized I messed up on something, but I'm actually not going to go over Raiders of the North Sea in this week's video. I'll go over it in next week's video. But yeah, so now I can officially say I've played a game from all 3 trilogies, which is good. But yeah, if you're a fan of his games and you know how they work, then yeah, it's going to be easy to learn. You know, at first glance, it seems, you know, as always, like, oh, there's a lot going on, you know, where he explains each section by section, but then it all comes together when you learn the iconography. So it's, you know, it's going to be smooth sailing once you learn the iconography. So yeah, the way it's a bit different from Wayfarers is that you don't, like in certain Sean Phillips games, like when you would place cards in your tableau, you would get like those bonuses, you try to make those connections. There's none of that going on here, so that's fine. In Wayfarers, you had that like journal track and you could see like who might get which path first. You don't have that kind of competition here. So, but I do feel like there's still quite a bit of player interaction in this game because, you know, you do have to use translators at times that other players have employed. You know, they may get to scholarly works first, scroll cards first that you want to translate, and then that could mess up your whole plan because, you know, sometimes you're just waiting for a certain language to come out in the Hall of Wisdom and it's just not there and it's just not coming up into the rondel. And so like there was a time where I was just really waiting for Greek to come up and it just was not coming up. So, you know, you'll have to figure out what to do in those instances. So, you know, I like it. I like how challenging it is. I think it's a really good challenging game and I absolutely adored it. So highly recommend it. So let's move on. So let me just put some of this stuff away before we move on. Oh, sorry, I did not speak about one ability. So instead of employing a translator, you can dispatch, which means you can just simply get the reward on the side and then place that translator at the bottom of the pile. Totally forgot to mention that. Oops. So that is another action you can take. Sorry, I will try to go through this process as quickly as possible. At this point, you can just skip ahead if you don't want to see me putting away dice. And of course, I put in the wrong color dice in this bag. Oopsies. Alrighty. Yeah, I'll show you the insert once I've done this. And of course it comes with coins and all of that good stuff. And you know, there are starting translators on the board as well. So these red numbers, like there's different like rooms at the bottom of the board. So you'll draw 4, I think in a 2-player game. I don't know if it's more, I'm assuming it's more in a 4-player game. And then you place the starting translators at the bottom of the board by the room number that they're in. And then that's when, starting with the last player and going in reverse order, you'll get to place an influence on the translators. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Sorry, almost done. Almost done. I suppose this is where editing would come in. Okay. Oh no, where does this go? So yeah, let me just show you the insert. Really good insert. You know, the pre-production copies are basically production copies. They're just really amazing. I actually received my production copy of Wayfarers recently and honestly didn't notice a real difference. You know, I still asked for a production copy just because in case there were some minor tweaks or something. So I would want the, you know, fully updated version in case there were minor tweaks to any of the cards or something like that, which is why I asked for the production copy of the game. Okay. And everything fits very nicely. And then I just put this over that. And then, or maybe should it go like, actually, sorry, it goes like this, duh. It fits like this. And then, yeah, the bags. I'll actually put the bags underneath that. Yep, very nice. Okay, so that was Scholars of the South, Tigris. And again, coming to Kickstarter in early March, I believe. The next game I will talk about is Starship Captains. Now this is, I guess I could call it a review copy. So Starship Captains, I'll explain why I think I can call it a review copy because I did get it for free. Starship Captains is a 2022 game designed by Peter Hofgaard. There's a number of artists with names I will butcher, so I guess I'll skip those. And it's published by Czech Games Edition. It's for 1 to 4 players. This is a worker placement game with like different types of workers and game bonuses, drafting, you know, all of that good stuff going on. So there is a retailer who likes my 1-minute overview videos and decided to commission me for some 1-minute overview videos to kind of help, you know, sell some games that they sell in their stores. So I'm going to be creating a 1-minute overview video for this game, 1 to 2 minutes, of course. Yeah, so that's why I received a free review copy of this game. So, Starship Captains. This is a game that's on the lighter side. I feel like it's a great game if you want to introduce people to modern board games who might not be into modern board games right now, and people who like the Star Trek theme. You know, if you like Star Trek, I think this would be a game you might enjoy. But again, it is on the lighter side, so if you are into medium to heavyweight games, you know, you might enjoy like a couple of plays of this, but then you might, you know, be like, okay, it's time to move on, you know, and to something else. You know, you might feel that way. So here is the main board. So I'll just show you the main board first, and of course, you know, it'll be different depending on player count. So, well, actually, I think maybe they're both identical. Actually, I think both sides might be identical. I can't tell right now because they both say 2 at the top. So yeah, actually, they might be identical. Okay, I think the sides are identical. And then let me just show you a spaceship. So here is a spaceship that each player is going to have. And at the bottom of your spaceship, you are going to have one of these, and these will hold your tech cards, and I'll explain what tech cards are in a minute. So you're going to have this at the bottom, and anywhere you see like that orange symbol, you're going to place a damage token. So you start the game with a certain number of damage tokens. The main board, at the bottom of the main board, is going to be this board, which will have tech cards on it that you'll be able to get throughout the game. And then there are going to be these 3 different tracks above the main board that you can advance on and get different bonuses as you advance on them. And then, of course, end game points as well. Sorry, I think that was upside down. Like you'll be able to get like medals every time you pass that medal point on this one. This one will give you like different abilities as well as some artifact tokens. And then this one, what is this one? This one will give you also like medals and different like abilities. And it looks like even a worker at one point, like a cadet, I think. Yeah, so you can advance on those. So let me just show you some of the cards and explain. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me show you the different workers. So you have different, they're called ensigns apparently, not ensigns. So the red, blue, and yellow are called ensigns. And then you have some gray cadets and gold androids. I think androids are like the most powerful, you could say, in this game. So you start the game with a certain number of workers ready to be used. So when you have workers in this part of the board, they're ready to be used. Workers, after you use a worker, you place it into this waiting area until they come out after you've passed, after everyone has passed, and you do like the round cleanup part. So in this game, you are basically going around this, you know, universe trying to fulfill missions and fight pirates and, you know, just basically get the most points. So on your turn, you can either activate a room or complete a mission, or you can pass. And then after everyone has passed, that's when you do the cleanup and the round is over, and then you go to the next round. We'll say this game goes by so quickly in a 2-player game. Like, I feel like you will feel like you wanted more actions, like you needed more time, because especially in the beginning of the game when you can't do too much, it's going to feel like that. But throughout the game, you might be able to promote your cadets into commanders. Like, there's a certain number of like little tiny rings you'll have on your board that, you know, by paying medals, you can promote your cadets. And so when they become commanders, they can do like an extra action, or they can like not recruit, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a special word where after you've promoted someone, you can command a subordinate. So when you command a subordinate, like you can bring down a worker who was in the not ready section to then be used. So, you know, you definitely want commanders in your game. So let me just show you some of the cards that you are trying to complete missions on. So below each planet, as I showed you, there is going to be a mission card. And mission cards look like this. So they show you the required workers, but you may not need both of those. I'll explain in a minute. But if you do use both the required colors shown, then you get the rewards. So in order to complete a mission, you have to have a worker for each of the spots shown, but you only get the rewards if the workers match those colors. And then, of course, you take your card and just put it to the side because they're worth points at the end of the game. So you can go around the board. So the different actions available to you that you'll see on your own board are you can move. So in order to go into this room to move, you need to place a red ensign there. In order to take the yellow action, which is, what is the yellow one? Fighting pirates. So there's going to be pirates on the main board. So you'll see in between the different planets, there are like these like little pathways. That's how you move. There may be pirate tokens on them and you want to fight them. When you fight pirate tokens, you'll get a pirate token to place on your board, and those are worth 1 point at the end of the game, but you also take damage, and damage tokens are worth -1 point. But there is a way to get rid of damage. So yellow is to fight pirates, and again, you need the yellow person in order to do that, or I think androids can be used for anything, but androids, again, you know, you may want to save them for more valuable actions, but I believe they can be used for anything if I remember correctly. Blue is to get a tech card, so tech cards can be quite valuable, so let me show you some tech cards, and those you want to kind of like trigger bonuses by matching up symbols. So there are alpha tech cards, beta tech cards, and then omega tech cards. So like, for example, here are some tech cards. Okay, so like, let's suppose I managed to get this tech card and this tech card and place them next to each other. I could trigger that repair action because I now have 2 repair symbols next to each other. In order to place tech cards, your slots at the bottom of the board, some of them are going to have damage tokens, and you're going to need to remove those damage tokens before you're able to place tech cards there. You start with just a few empty slots. And there's also those symbols printed on the board itself. So you can use the ones that are printed on the board as well in order to trigger those bonuses. Like, for example, here. So like if I place that there, I would trigger the repair action. But again, you start with damage tokens on these 2 slots and these 2 slots. So yeah, tech cards are great. The omega ones give you points at the end of the game, or so like you'll see like how to score points for the omega ones, this is really great. So yeah, you probably want tech cards. I focused on getting them. So then what's the other action? The other action is repair, and anyone can do repair. So cadets can do repair as well as ensigns. So after you take an action, so like let's suppose you do one of these room actions, then you take that cadet or whatever and move him to the not ready section, and you always place them in order. So, and the order is important. So you just can't like start, you know, if you already had like 2 ensigns there, you can't stick the next one between those 2 because they'll come out in a certain order as well. If you want to complete a mission, so when you move from planet to planet, you don't get to complete the mission immediately, right? So there's going to be mission cards beneath these planets and the slots that you see, but you don't get to complete that mission immediately. You have to take the complete a mission action. However, you can be parked at a planet and reserve that mission. So if you are the first one at a planet in which there is a mission, if someone else later comes to that planet, like they're just passing through because, you know, you're on their way, because when you do take the move action, you only get like 2 movement points. They might need to stop at your planet, but they can't complete that mission because you were there first. In order to complete a mission, you're going to take a mission card and place it next to your board. And then you are going to place the ensigns, the workers, in their slots. And again, if they match the color, you get those rewards. If they don't match the color, you do not get the rewards. But like, let's suppose you wanted the blue reward, you still have to place 2 workers there. You cannot complete a mission without 2 workers there. And then they retire, and you of course put them in the retiring section, and they go this way. After everyone has passed, you will take all the workers except for the last 3 and move them to your ready section. So everyone will slide down except for the last 3, and they will go into, sorry, wrong side of the board here. Everyone will slide down except for the last 3, and then they will be ready to be used in the next round. So yeah, so that is the gist of the game. There are like different things that are going on in this game, like these artifact tokens, which are pretty cool. So you can collect these artifacts throughout the game. So like here, artifacts, they're random, so they're going to be face down. You don't know which artifact you'll be getting. And then you have to place them in storage in your board. So you start with a certain number of open storage spaces and then certain number of damage. And damage also goes into these areas of the board. So again, you want to remove damage because they take up spaces for you where you can be storing pirate tokens, which will give you points at the end of the game, or these artifacts. So you want to try to remove damage as well because again, they're worth negative points. If you have 2 colors that are the same, like in this instance, I have 2 yellows, that would allow me to perform the yellow action, which again is fight pirates, without actually using a yellow worker. So then you would discard those. So artifacts are cool because they can be used that way. What else? Let's see. Again, there's, you know, the different tracks you can go up, like different, you know, actions will allow you, different bonuses throughout the game will allow you to go up those tracks, which will give you bonuses throughout the game and points at the end of the game. Then at the end of the game, scoring. Let's talk about scoring. Where is the rulebook? Okay. So end of game scoring, you of course get points for your missions, you get points from the 3 faction tracks, you get points from any Omega techs you have, and then you get 1 point for each commander, android, and pirate token on your ship, and half a point for each medal and artifact on your ship. Medals are what you use, again, to promote cadets to ensigns and ensigns to commanders, and then you get -1 point for each damage, and then whoever has the most points will win. So again, you know, I feel like in a 2-player game, the rounds go by pretty quickly. I feel like you will feel like you want more rounds or more turns. I did get the chance to promote, so that was good, you know. I feel like, I didn't feel like that there was, you know, I felt like I was able to complete like every different kind of action. So that was cool. So like I was able to, you know, get a taste of everything in this game. I do think it'll probably be more competitive at a higher player count, which might make it a bit more interesting. So again, you know, I do feel like it's a lighter game, but it's a good game. But, you know, for heavier, medium to heavyweight gamers, you might maybe get bored after a few plays. I don't know. But it's a really great game if you enjoy the theme and you know, want to introduce other people to hobby board gaming. I think that this is a great game to introduce them to the hobby. So moving on. So again, I will be creating a 1-minute overview video of this game, and I will talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video, like, you know, me working with this retailer and what that means. Okay, moving on. The next game I will talk about is one that I was also excited to play, is Goblin Vaults. So Goblin Vaults is a 2023 game. It is now available to order from Thunderworks Games, so straight to retail. It's for 1 to 5 players, designed by Keith Matejka and Eric Schloutman, several different artists, and it's published by Thunderworks Games. Now this is a bidding game and a card placement game. So the box was smaller than I thought it was going to be. For some reason, I thought it would be a bigger box, but I actually like how portable it is. It's a pretty good game, so it's a good game that, you know, will be portable and easy to play in different, you know, with different kinds of people. So it's just, and you know, very few components. You know, though, like, I'm a medium to heavyweight gamer, I would say, you know, I do appreciate games that have few components where setup is just a breeze. So you just gotta appreciate that sometimes. So here are the different factions that you can play as. So you will take one of these cards to indicate which faction you are and the matching token. I do think that there's a color misprint on one of these. Like, this looks more purple to me than blue. It should be blue because the token for that is blue. So yeah, a bit of a color misprint there, or maybe the ink just happened to be more purplish than blue. But anyway, and then you have all these gear tokens and the first player marker and your player aids. So in this game, you have what's called the block, and then there is like a warden card. I don't remember exactly what the warden card is. So you will start the game with, I believe, is it 9 cards in hand or 10 cards in hand? Sorry, you'll start the game with 10 cards in hand. You are going to place 3 cards in a row, which is known as the block, and then above that is the warden card. So your setup will look like this: 3 cards face up, 1 card here, and then your draw deck, which is going to be pretty small after you've dealt all the cards out. So there are different suits of cards here, and then depending on player count, you may remove certain suits. And then at the top of the game, you're also going to have different like goal cards. So you'll have like one of these like main ones, like for example, cluster. And then in a 3-player game, you'll have like 2 different like suit goal cards for you to try to achieve. So what you're doing is you're bidding. So, you know, starting with the start player, you are going to place a bid on any card in the block. If you underbid, meaning someone else already bid there and you don't want to win the bid, then you'll need to place a gear token on that card. And there's reasons you may want to underbid. And then if your bid matches the faction icon of the warden, which was that 1 card on top, you can take a warden action as well. Warden actions are very useful, and I'll get into what those are in a minute. So after everyone has placed their bids, you resolve the bids. If there was a card with no bids on it, you're going to add a gear to that card. If there was only 1 bid on a card, then that person automatically wins that bid. They take the card that they were bidding on and add it to their own vault. And your vault will consist of 4 chambers, which is 4 vertical rows, and then 3 tiers. So tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 across your 4 chambers. If there was a card with 2 or more bids on it, the winning bidder will get it. And then the other ones will, plus any gears on that card, and the other ones will take the card that they used to bid and add that to their vault. Whereas the winner, anytime you win a bid, your card that you used to bid becomes a part of the block for the next bidding round then. Important, I was going to say something and I just totally lost it. Great. Okay, so yeah, so you want to try to get cards in such a way that hopefully you can place them into the correct tiers. So when you place a card into your vault, then you can only place them in order. So like, you know, you cannot decide that a card is going to be in tier 3 when you don't have anything in tier 1 or tier 2. Not going to happen. So different cards show you which tier they prefer to be in, because that will help you to score mega points if you get them into their correct tier. If you play a card that again matches the symbol of the warden card, you take a warden action. So a warden action allows you to move a card from anywhere in your vault to somewhere else in your vault. However, no chamber can ever have more than 3 cards. No card can ever be moved to an empty position in tier 2 or tier 3 if the previous tier in that chamber is empty. So again, you know, you have to kind of go in order 1, 2, 3. You can't put a card in tier 3 if there's nothing in 1 and 2, and you can't move a card. Moving a card can cause other cards in the vault to shift up or down by 1 tier accordingly. You cannot swap, so because you can't like take 1 card from 1 chamber and swap it with another card from another chamber, because that would be moving 2 cards. You cannot do that. You can only move 1 card with a warden action. So yeah, so then after everyone has resolved that, the player with the first player token can decide whether they want to change the warden card. So I forgot to mention that the warden card is also like the dominating card. It's like if someone plays that card, and the highest value of that suit, they will win the bid. So it's like kind of like a trick-taking element where it's the leading suit. So the Warden card is always going to be the leading suit. So even if someone plays a higher number than you, if you play the leading suit for a bid, you're going to win that bid, even if someone else had the higher number. So you're trying to place cards in their tiers because at the end of the game, you are going to score points for cards that are placed in their correct tiers. So if tier 1 cards are placed in tier 1, you'll get 1 point for each tier 1 card in tier 1, 2 points for each tier card in tier 2, and 3 points for each tier 3 card in tier 3. And then you're going to get points for, let's see, gear tokens, so 1 point for each gear token you have left. You'll get faction icons. Players score 2 gears for each faction icon positioned anywhere in their vault that matches their own faction card. So again, you have different icons, and if you have icons on the cards that match your own icon, you will get points for those. And then goal cards, you'll score points for the goal cards if you were able to achieve them. I feel like it's really hard. At least I thought it was really hard. I lost in a 3-player game. I came in last place. I felt like it was hard to focus on both the goal cards as well as trying to get cards into the correct tiers. Like there is definitely a lot going on in this game, but I like how strategic it is. Like it's a really good bidding game. It's a small, good bidding game because you are trying to, it's a thinky game. Like you're trying to place cards correctly. You're trying to decide whether you should underbid. And of course, if you're the first person going in that round, you don't know if someone's going to outbid you. I like it. It's a good game. It was a good fun game, and again, quite portable. It's got cool artwork, like goblin-y artwork, so definitely liked it, and I would definitely play it again. So yes, that was Goblin Vaults. Curious about the solo mode, and I know I say that all the time, and you guys are probably like, she always says that, but she never plays games solo. I swear, I will. Gonna get around to playing more solo games. Kind of miss it. So yeah. And here is the score pad just to show you what it is. So yeah, I played against a friend of mine and then his 7 or 8-year-old kid, and they both beat me. So I had 33, and then, but to be fair, his father helps him a bit. And then the kid had 40, and then my friend had 42. So yeah. So that was Goblin Vaults. The last game I will talk about is Hats. Now this is an older game. Let me just bring up the information before I show it to you. Hats is a 2019 game designed by Gabriel Bubola, and the art is done by Paolo Voto, and is published by Thundergriff Games, and it is for 2 to 4 players. This is a set collection hand management game. Now, this is one of the games where I feel like the theme really has nothing to do with the game. Here is the score sheet, which is a napkin, and here is the table. So you're going to have a table that looks like this, where there will be some cards placed. In a 2-player game, you only use the first 5 slots. So it's a table, and you can see like different little plates. There is a cookie, and there are these cards with different suits on them. So in a 2-player game, which is what I played, you are going to remove 2 of the suits. So in my 2-player game, I removed the brown and the green. Not that it matters to you guys. But anyway, so the cards are numbered 1 through 6. So in a 2-player game, we played with, I think it's 5 different suits I think you play with. So we had orange, blue, purple, pink, and red. Yeah, so 5 different suits. So it's an interesting game. You are going to start with 9 cards in hand. And on your turn, there are going to then be cards placed onto the table here, as I said, 1 face up on each of the first 5 slots in a 2-player game. And on your turn, you can do one of the 2 actions. You can either exchange a hat from your hand with a card that is on the table, but the cards played and exchanged must be of the same type, or the number on the played card is higher than the number being exchanged on the T-table board. So whichever card you take, you're going to place in front of you in your own player area. And then, or instead of doing that, you can create a black hat. You can play a single card face down in front of you and add it to your collection. This is considered a black hat because all of the backs of these cards are black. Optional action: at any time during your turn, you may discard a single card face down and draw a new one from the draw deck. So it's an interesting game because scoring is going to be affected by how each player plays on their turn. So basically, let's talk about scoring because that is important. And that's basically the whole game. So when the game ends, all players will have one card remaining in their hand, and that is their favorite hat type. Just put that to the side. Then you are going to look at this board, and if there are multiples, more than one of a single hat type, like let's suppose there's 2 orange cards, one here and one here, the one with, or any of the repeats like of that hat type are going to be turned over from the higher plate number. So in this case, the 3 card would be turned over and the lower one would stay face up. So you're going to do that for each hat type. So if there are more than one of a certain hat type, you're going to turn some of them over and they will not be scored. And only the face up cards at the end of the game are going to be scored. How they will score is any cards you have in your collection will be worth the position of the hat of the plate that they are at. So let's suppose you had orange cards in your collection. This orange is at plate 1. Each orange card you have is going to be worth 1 point. Let's suppose blue was on plate 4. Each blue card you have in your collection will be worth 4 points. Each person is going to have a favorite hat type. You're going to reveal that at the end of the game. Your favorite hat type, you will take any cards in your collection of that color. Let's suppose my favorite hat type was purple. So let's suppose I had a 1 purple left at the end of the game. That was my favorite hat type because that was the last card I had left in my hand. I'm going to look at which purple cards I have in my collection, add up their value, and subtract the value of this card. So you definitely want your favorite hat type to be a low number so you can get more points from that. So it would be 9 minus 1, so I would get 8 points for my favorite hat type. Cookie. Throughout the game, the cookie is going to be passed back and forth. Whoever has the most different types of hats in their collection will get to keep the cookie. If there's a tie at any point, it's the player who has the lowest value card in their collection that will get to keep the cookie. The cookie is worth 5 points at the end of the game. So that is essentially scoring. So you are affecting the game as you are playing it. You're affecting scoring. So my friend said that this game is broken because when the first game we played, my last move was a very good move for me. I was really able to alter, what scores at the end by playing my last card, basically eliminating a whole thing of scoring for him by removing one of the hat types. So he felt that this game is broken because the last player has a lot of power like that. So we played a second game of it, and in the second game, he was the second player and he won. So, I don't know if it's broken. There is no way to really compensate for that. Like at the beginning of the game during setup, it does not say anywhere that the first player gets 1 point and to start the game with, and the second player gets 2 points and the third player gets nothing. It doesn't say anything like that. So I don't know if the game is broken because the last player does have a lot of power to, of course, alter the game scoring in the end. Don't know if it's broken. Curious if you've played this game and if you feel it's broken because of that. I would just like to know your thoughts on that. I would like to play it at a higher player count before I, completely decide whether or not this game is broken and whether it should stay in my collection. And again, theme doesn't really have much to do with the game. I suppose it could have been any theme, but if you're an Alice in Wonderland fan, then it might be fun to have this game. So those were the games I played in the last week. As I stated, I had shot this video yesterday, which was a Saturday. Today is Sunday on the day I'm shooting this, and it's probably going to go up today as well. But I had, made an error in one of the games I was talking about, so I just decided to reshoot the whole thing. I did play 2 games yesterday, but I'll talk about them in next week's video. So I played Raiders of the North Sea, and I also played Blazon from 25th Century Games. So I will talk about those in next week's video. So you get a little bit of a sneak peek of what I'll be talking about. So let's move on to games that I am backing. Thank you so much for all of your comments about FOMO. I know I still need to respond to those comments, but I did read all of them. One of you did mention how, being a content creator, FOMO might get to me a bit more. It is true because, when I make content because I enjoy making content, but of course, I do want to cover new games, because I know that people will go to a channel that's covering new games, but maybe I should focus more on creating content of the games I already have, focus on creating more lists because, it's not feasible for me to just stay up with every new game. Like, I will go broke if I try to get every single new game that comes out. Alex from Board Game Co. recently came out with a video about FOMO, which was perfect timing because I really needed to watch it. And I know that there are videos that exist like that already, and he does a video like that once every couple of months, but it's good to get a refresher. I know that actual LOL, like when he made his video about the 10 biggest mistakes board gamers make, I told myself I would go back and watch that every month so that I don't give into FOMO. I really should go back and watch that more often because I give into FOMO and I know I should not. So watching Alex's video really did help. Yeah, so I'm trying to be good. So currently the only game I'm backing for and paying for is Zoo Vadis, just because, you know, those animal meeples look really cool and it's a Rainer Knizia game. And then I'm backing Arborea at £1 still because to get my production copy of the game. So yeah, so not backing anything else at the moment. Not sure if there's anything coming out soon that I will want to back because, you know, I'm sorry that I contribute to your guys' FOMO if I do, because I know I'm a content creator, so it's kind of like my job to contribute to FOMO for you guys, and I hope I don't, you know, you guys all seem reasonable. Like from your comments, it seems like you guys are pretty reasonable and know when to hold back on buying a game or backing a game. So I probably should learn from you, but you know, Scholars of the South Tigris was great, but again, you know, focus on what you can buy. Don't spend money that you don't have like I do, because then you will end up with credit card debt, and yeah, you don't want to do that. So yeah. So moving on, so games that I received, of course I had received Starship Captains, which I already showed you guys. Have not received anything new else recently, anything else new recently. I think I might have a Kickstarter or two on its way to me. I don't know, we'll see. Moving on to games that I'm culling. So this is a section I have not done for a while, but maybe you guys saw this coming. So I have decided to cull all 4 of these games. Boom. So I am culling my Facade collection. The reason I'm culling it is because it will help me to avoid FOMO, and it will help me to avoid backing Hollywood 1947. Did my camera shift? Well, I'm sorry if it did. I don't know if it did. So, you know, Hollywood 1947, there's like a lot of talk about how it's such an amazing social deduction game. I don't know if it is. I mean, there's so many great social deduction games, so do I need it? I probably don't need it. You know, I don't want to give in to FOMO. I don't want to give in to my completionist tendencies, like, oh, I have the first 4 games, so naturally I need the 5th one, even though I haven't played 3 of these, and I've had them since 2018. So Alex and his Board Game Co. Alex from Board Game Co. in his video talked about how sometimes you back a game and when it arrives you have no desire to play it. That happened to me with Mercado de Lisboa. When Mercado de Lisboa was on Kickstarter, at that time I'd never played a Vital Lacerda game, and I was convinced like I needed this game, I'm gonna love it, it's gonna be like my first Vital Lacerda game, it's a medium weight game, so I'm just gonna be so excited for it. By the time it arrived, I had no interest in playing it whatsoever. I just was like looking at it, was like, yeah, it just does not appeal to me. I just don't even want to try it, and I immediately culled it from my collection. I sold it. So yeah, so that was a mistake. And backing these, so Bristol, I ended up backing separately later, but I backed Deadwood. Which game was it? I think it was Deadwood, or maybe it was Tortuga. It was one of these games. It was the most recent of these 3 games that I had backed on Kickstarter and then added the other 2 in the Pledge Manager. Have had these since the most recent of these 3 arrived, so that was actually the first Kickstarter after Exploding Kittens. I don't count Exploding Kittens, I'll explain why in a minute. But this was the first Kickstarter I backed as a hobby board gamer, and I have never played these games. Never, like not one of these 3. And I've had them since like what, 2018, and haven't played a single one in what, it's 2023 now, so probably not going to play them. Don't want to give into my completionist tendencies anymore. Like I backed Bristol because of that completionist tendency to complete the collection so it would look nice on my bookshelf, but I don't play them, so I'm going to cull them. So I'm going to take them to my local game store and trade them in. So yeah, I'm trading them in so that hopefully I can get a game that I actually want to play. I will admit that the, you know, components are really nice. Like in Bristol, I absolutely love these like little metal cards. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably the reason I backed it. Oh, and these foil cards are so nice. Look at this. Oh, that is pretty. Okay, I'm almost convincing myself to keep this. I don't know. Maybe I should just get rid of the first 3 and keep this one. I don't know. Because now I'm like, wow, these metal cards are so nice, and oh, these dice are so nice. Yeah, but like I said, I've only played this game once. Maybe I should keep Bristol and just get rid of the other 3. I don't know. Like, I'm already talking myself out of it now. I don't know what to do. Yeah. Like I said, the only reason I played this game was because someone saw it on my shelf, a friend of mine, and wanted to play it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have gotten played. Should I just get rid of all 4 of them or just 3 of them now? Should I keep Bristol just because the cards are so nice? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Yeah, like, okay, Deadwood is like a Western themed game. I have other Western themed games that I can probably enjoy a bit more. Yeah. Again, cool components. I mean, you can't lie. The production quality of these games is nice. God, I feel like I'm just talking myself out of culling these games, even though I've never even played them. What am I doing? What am I doing? Someone stop me. Oh God, I should just stop looking at them. Oh my God, this is what happens. Like, I just fall in love with the components. It's like you just fall in love with how beautiful everything is. Oh, this sucks. Stop it. Okay, let's look at Salem. Salem probably has like the most basic components. Yeah, Salem is just some cards and time thingy, sand timer. And then here's Tortuga, which is a pirate themed game. Again, basic components. I don't think I'll be sad about getting rid of this, and I have some cooler pirate themed games. So yeah, I think definitely Tortuga and Salem, and Deadwood I'll probably get rid of. Bristol, maybe I'll hang on to, just because also I lived in England, although I never did visit Bristol, so I don't know if I should have a connection or an emotional connection to that game, because I actually have never visited Bristol, but the components in Bristol are way nicer, like super nice. I don't know. Okay, so 3 of them I'm definitely going to call, and maybe Bristol as well. Yeah. Okay, so those are the games I am culling. So the question of the week. Let's move on to the question of the week. I think we are there now. If you feel a game is broken, do you automatically cull it from your collection, or do you try to fix it? Do you house rule it in order so that you may keep it? So this, of course, was inspired by hats. So let me know what you do when you feel a game is broken. I just want to know, like, should I house rule hats? Like, is there any way to fix a broken game? What do you do? You know, unfortunately, games should not be broken. Like, they should be play tested enough that when you spend your money on a game, you feel like you are getting your money's worth, and that you will not have to make that difficult decision of deciding to just get rid of a game because it's broken, and then its value might be diminished. Like, you know, its value might be less by the time you decide to cull it, because then everyone knows it's broken, and who wants a broken game then? So yeah, so what do you do if a game is broken? That is my question for you. So I will be back next week to talk about Raiders of the North Sea, as well as Blazon and any other games I play in the coming days. So thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.